Makers la mette in mezzo, bella tiro, gol! Luka Modric ha segnato Luka, ecco il gol del maestro.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Ollie Fisher, joined by Anthony, he is movable, Torgrud. It's me and Bidet today.
Yeah, another one bites the dust. Okay, next week it'll just be me.
You're like the Grim Reaper. You just show up and chop someone out the way.
Listen, I'm taking over. Okay, I'm taking over.
Yeah, slowly but surely, you're weaving your way into the fabric of the everyday being of SempreMilan. Good to have you along with us again. Second week in a row.
Third week.
Third week in a row. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
This is the first time ever, and we should mention, I completely forgot to say last week that we wrapped up 400 podcast episodes of the main podcast, of course, and that dates back to, I think, June 2016 was our first ever one. It was me and a guy called Dan Gutman. Was there any overlap? Do you remember Dan?
I don't.
No, I think that maybe just came after that. But yeah, long time ago, the audio quality was absolutely horrendous. There was the conversation was pretty rigid. Things have come on quite a bit since then. Obviously, 10-year anniversary of what we've been doing as a brand, and 400 episodes of the podcast. So whether you've watched 1, 10, 100 or all of them, I apologize if you have watched that many, but thank you for all of your support over the years. We really appreciate it. And now we move into the next century, episode 401. We've got 3 games to talk about. We're going to recap the Pisa game on Friday night that gave us all a bit of it took years off our life once again. We're going to preview the Como match, which is taking place tomorrow. We're recording this on a Tuesday at San Siro. And then we've got a bit of a preview of the Parma game too, which comes at the weekend. Before we dive in full, we're going to do the weekly Substack plug. And as a reminder, $5 for the month, $50 for the year, or you can try a week for free, so you can see what we've got over there. That's where you'll find bonus content such as the pub chat that Stefano and Lorenzo recorded over the weekend. I think we're going to speak a little bit about it too, but there was some refereeing controversy, shall we say, in Serie A this weekend. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, Inter Juve has stolen the headlines for all of the decisions that came in that and the ramifications that it has on the top 4 race, the title race. They go through what that could mean for our season. There's been, Allegri got asked in his press conference today, does it feel like the Montari goal? We're already there. With it. But yeah, that was obviously big, and they go through the decisions, Italian football, and its problem with refereeing in general, what VAR can do, that kind of thing. Lorenzo was on the post-match instant reaction for the Pisa game. As the title suggests, he went through why things were once again more difficult than they perhaps needed to be, and why Milan make the simple games on paper way more complex than they should be, where, of course, could have mentioned that too. Most recent bonus podcast was me and AJ talking about the parallels that there are between the 2021-22 season, when we, of course, last won the Scudetto, and the current season. There are all kinds of different things. We went through stuff like the summer business, the main signing being from Chelsea for big money. There was also that was a bit of a techticality because
varying levels of success there.
Yeah. But other stuff such as the midfield being the strength. There's some overlap between the squad. We didn't have an elite goal scorer in that team. Also, running on the vibes of unity and it being us against the others and that kind of thing. And I'd like to add another point of similarity to that now in hindsight. Modric's goal was the Tonali winner at Lazio. Just saying. Probably not. But then you've got the most recent bonus article in there too, which Isaac did. It was all about how Milan have started structuring the exits of certain young talents. So thinking of, Liberali, I think Matteo Dutu has left, Kubis left. There's been other players, Botsolan being another one that have left, and people baffled as to why we don't get a fee for them, but instead insist on putting in this 50% resale clause thing. Even going back to the Piscina days when, there was a 50% clause on him. Would we re-sign him for half price or not? He goes into why exactly we're doing that and some of the players that could potentially use that in our favour in the future. Yeah, go try a week for free. Hope you like it. Let's go. Okay, I'm on banner duty today, so I apologise if I'm a little bit slow. We should mention at this point too, AJ can't join us because his dog Chuck, who is at this point the podcast mascot, you always see him in the background listening to some of our horrendous takes. He had to have some surgery to remove some plastic from his stomach. And AJ is on looking after duties at the moment. So get well soon, Chuck. That's what we say from all of the SempreMilan team. And let's talk about Friday night down in Pisa, crossing Pisa. We predicted collectively relatively comfortable win for us in this game. Relatively comfortable it was not.
I think we kind of spoke about. I have mentioned that of all the 24 games into the season, they've only lost by 2 or more goals 6 times. So they were always a very tough customer. And I mean, that's kind of how the game played out. We were the better team for a lot of the game and so on. But when push came to shove, it was 1-1 and we needed to get it out the mud basically. And thankfully Modric was there to do it. But it was again, some of these, when I was looking back at the game, I watched the highlights again, even though I watched it live. I watched the highlights again yesterday, and I was just like, okay, it's not great. It's not amazing. But with Leao and Pulisic's injuries, the best I can expect is survive. Just survive, get 3 points, move on. I'm not going to – I'm just not going to sit here and, consternate too much about the performances at this point. Just put the 3 points on the board.
Speaking of the injuries, we should point to the starting lineup now, because there was obviously all of the speculation in the build-up to the game that Leao was going to be fit enough to start, maybe that Pulysic that Füllkrug might get a run out from the first minute. And we'd said in the preview that we should just go with whoever's 100% fit. And he did do that. He went with Nkunku and Loftus-Cheek, who got the job done in Bologna. So that was the front two. The defence was interesting. He chose to change the 3 centre-backs. Probably the inform man, Como de Vinter, came out for Fikayo Tomori, who slotted back in on the right side. I didn't necessarily agree with that, to be honest. I think, Allegri, it's interesting because Allegri wants to make our defensive record our biggest strength. He's done that pretty much everywhere he's been. And yet he took out, the most informed player. You'd think that now we're getting towards playing 1 game a week. Okay, we've got a midweek game coming up, so perhaps that factored into it. But you think cohesion, chemistry, continuity, all those kind of things would be crucial to what he's trying to do. But instead, he takes out the one who's been our best defender in the past few weeks. I didn't necessarily agree with that. Yeah,
there's no way he should do that again. I mean, we have all talked about how frail the center back core has been all season, and that trio that played that game showed it on the goal that we conceded. All of them are all over the place, and De Winter so far, especially the last 4 or 5 games, has been the only chance we've had at maybe one of these center backs is elevating over the rest. He's gonna actually be the consistent starter, and to bench him was a very big mistake in my opinion, especially because again he is also he's been the best defensively, but he's also offered the most on the ball. Which is a huge issue. It has been a huge issue for us, especially in Saelemaekers' absence, because he helped with our build-up so much. Without him, without Saelemaekers, and without De Winter, it's basically Mike to Modric. Everything in between is terrible. You have to get the ball to Modric, and only then can you pray at actually looking forward and going and attacking. So, I don't think he'll be, and I think he'll recognize that mistake, especially given the goal and how that went in. I think we'll see De Winter going forward.
I agree with all of that. And there are can't speak. There are already reports saying that for the Como game, De Vinter is going to come back in, and that wouldn't surprise me. He looks almost to show presence at the moment, and in a game like that, with forwards moving everywhere, passes zipping everywhere, you kind of need someone a bit more stable. And then Atakame and Batizagi, the wing backs, no surprise there. Saelemaekers wasn't ready yet. Fofana, Modric, Rabiot across the middle. I don't have any massive dispute with that, to be honest with you. But I did find it interesting that Hiljemark, who was taking charge of his first home game for Pisa, decided to go with a 3-4-3, which is, a bit of an attacking shift from previously. And I thought that, with us naming 3 central midfielders against a pivot, maybe you could get away with someone who's a bit better in possession than Fofana in order to try and help break down the low blocks. So be that Ricci, be that Modric, be that Jashari, sorry. But we didn't see that. He went for Fofana, who we know by now is the comfort blanket because of what he does out of possession and sort of in the middle third of the field. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've got nothing to... took the wrong thing off there. I've got nothing to really talk about until we take the lead. There was nothing. It was attack against defence. As you mentioned, Pisa... they've only won 1 game this season, but they've made it difficult for teams. And, new manager in his first home game in charge. Of course, he'll be dreaming of a big scout, but above all, he'll just want his players to fight for every ball, to remain organised, to try and draw us out a little bit, because we've shown against even newly promoted teams that we can be quite weak defending in transition. That was sort of the way that it was going. But we just ended up working the ball wide more and more when we couldn't get through the middle. And we actually score the first goal. I didn't know this until I saw the tweet from Opta earlier. We scored this first goal through Ruben Loftus-Cheek after a 27-pass move, which is the highest of any goal in Serie A so far this season. It didn't feel like that, but I think when you look at the pass map, about 25 of them are just side to side across the midfield. But I do want to say at this point, one of the accusations, one of the criticisms levelled at Allegri football is that even the spells in possession are boring because it's just working it side to side and sort of hoping for an opening. I think that kind of stands as proof, the way that we scored this goal, that it can work. Because even though you're shifting the ball side to side and it may appear boring, you may appear to be making little forward progress, you're shifting the block little by little, and then sometimes openings emerge for, in this case, your wing back to get forward, which was Atakame pushing up on the right side. He gets possession, and just like the Bologna game where Loftus-Cheek again scored the opening goal, albeit after Nkunku missed a chance, he whips in a delightful ball from the right side, and this time RLC meets it kind of at the front post and puts it in the far corner. It's funny, we'd struggled a lot up until this point, and all it took was a good cross and a good header, and we're 1-0 up.
Yeah, sometimes it is that simple. And I think there was some positives in the fact that we actually kept possession for most of that 30, 35 minutes up until that point. Because even against the worst teams, even against the ones that kind of want to sit back and do that, we have often kind of still looked a little shaky in possession. I think overall throughout the game, even after we took the lead, we had a really, really good sustained spell of possession going into, starting the second half. And I was like, okay, this is really positive. And that culminated in what we'll talk about later. But yeah, like kind of what you were saying where, okay, it was a lot of side to side and kind of just sitting in front of Pisa's block and all that. I think the criticism will be of Allegri that, that's kind of how they do. Allegri teams will take what the defense gives them. So if the defense is just going to sit there and we're like, all right, cool, we'll sit there. We'll sit here too. Like we'll do the whole thing. And without Leao or Pulysic, who both in various roles, depending on who they're partnered with, would be the guy who's like, okay, actually, I'm going to occupy a center back and then I'm going to come drop deep in and then I'm going to receive the ball and I'm going to turn and I'm going to cause the chaos that would open up a block. Without both of those guys, and Nkunku, despite having a really, really great game against Bologna, I thought it was really interesting that he was kind of like he wasn't awful, but he wasn't as involved in the first half, and then he kind of gets hooked in the second half. I thought that was very interesting because profile wise, he's like the second striker type. He's the one who kind of should be doing that, where you want somebody to kind of drop into that central space and cause the havoc. And I guess maybe Allegri either was saving him up for Como because he'll probably have to play again, or kind of was disappointed in his lack of doing that and kind of brought in Fulkrug to, okay, fine, if we're not going to do the little intricate passing sequences, we might as well just go higher and just have a battering ram up top. But yeah, the other thing, I mean, is Atakame is has added an extra dimension in that he's an infinitely better crosser than Salamakis is, right? Salamakis is obviously great in other things and build up, and I always talk about my issue. I still have issues with Salamakis and his limitations because he's only great between the boxes. So like, he's great when you want to get out of your own half and move the ball up the field. Fantastic. And with our build-up issues, he's really valuable there. But once we get into their final third, there's nothing he can really do. He's an okay dribbler, but his decision making is all over the place in terms of creativity. So it's like Athikame has basically mirrored Bartsagi on the other side, where it's just like, okay, just launching some crosses. Yeah. And they've been really great. He sets up the goal the other day against the opener against Bologna with the cross to Kunku, and he does it again today. I think he's been the biggest positive of the past 2 games in that, okay, now early on in his Milan career, he honestly looked like he was just a deer in headlights every time he touched the ball. Yeah. He's just like, that kind of thing where they talk about in American sports, they talk about when you go play in Denver, it's like the altitude is too high, right? And it's very high altitude, it's like hard to breathe or whatever. It's like every time Athikame received the ball up higher up the field, it looked like, dude, is this guy like is he struggling for oxygen? What the hell's
getting
happening?
A nosebleed? Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. There was one against Napoli where there was a counter and Leao got the ball and he's running, and Athikame is the only guy with him and he passes him the ball. Athikame was just like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do here. Yeah. And he doesn't look like that anymore, which is great.
No.
So yeah, like I think he's kind of that's another avenue to kind of break down these deep blocks now.
It's probably another mark in Allegri's favour in terms of the way that, to our frustration in the first half of the season, he kind of drip fed some of these players in. We didn't really think that maybe Ricci was getting the minutes that he should have done. De Winter was obviously put into situations where he kind of floundered himself a little bit. But then, you're wondering about Athikame, and it's mainly because Salamakis had to start all of the first 24 games of the season. Even trying to play through an injury against Roma, you're like, how unusable are these guys where this is what we've got, But yeah, he's now been put in there and he looks fully ready. Of course, there are still some aspects of his game that need working on. I think he's looking very much a wing back in the sense that defensively he isn't all there, at least in terms of his positioning and stuff. But I think that the raw materials are there for him to become like a right-sided Bartosaghi. He's got the tall frame, the crossing is there. And I think if he makes some use of that physicality on the other end, then he could start to round off into a really good player. Of course, he's still very young, and this is a first season in Serie A, which is notoriously a hard league to adapt to, especially from the Swiss league. So as you say, it's another string to our attacking bow. But, Salamakis is back in full training, so you'd imagine if he's fit enough, he goes straight back into the team because we know Allegri values him, and I agree with some of the limitations we've seen from him. But I think when he's fully fit, he does just give you a little bit more guarantees at this stage. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Then second half, Nkunku off at halftime. My first thought was he's injured. He just didn't look particularly sharp in the first half. And you know what I mean, what our looks been like. Yeah, with forwards. I'm thinking that's him done for a few weeks. But then, I think it was just, even though we were winning the game, I think it was just a ploy to go a little bit more direct, realising that what we were doing in open play, I know we scored from open play, but it was a cross. It just wasn't really working. So we needed someone to occupy, and Fulkrug comes on for what was unfortunately not to be a good night for him, just as it wasn't in Bologna when he missed a couple of the big chances. Although he should have had an assist pretty much straight away, or could have had an assist pretty much straight away. Within 2 minutes of the restart, he sort of brings the ball down on the edge of the box and manages to hook it over to Rabiot, who volleys it in with an amazing finish, by the way. Really, really nicely taken goal. But then the referee disallows it for handball and the VAR upholds it. I've still not really seen a conclusive review.
Yeah. They showed two apparently, and it was like, are we sure that didn't just hit his chest? I never saw anything. Yeah, but again, it was one of those where I feel like sometimes if everybody around the player kind of like immediately is like, hey, it's kind of like probably was handball, but it didn't look conclusive at all. I was really surprised by the lack of angles they showed.
I kind of wanted Fulkrug to make more of a big deal of it. Instead, he just kind of seemed to accept it. He was like, yeah.
Which probably does mean
it probably means it was. Yeah. I mean, We've had similar ones kind of go in our favour. There was the Pulysic winner at Genoa that time where the whole league was crying that it was a handball and stuff. And I think there is a bit of a grey area still, despite the fact that, they've got the graphic and they mark off the sleeve and it's like, well, what if it's there? What if it's like right in the armpit? What does that mean? So I think there are still some areas where it's unsure. But nice finish by Rabiot. And then, of course, we get the penalty. Comes from your favourite thing to watch, Pavlovic bombing into the box. Genuinely, this was a smart bit of play from him. I think he sees the lane and he draws the contact. And I mean, it's as clear-cut a penalty as you're going to see. But it does just show that sometimes there are other more peculiar ways to break through a low block, because Pisa, make no mistake, did not start going all out attack at this point. I think they were still hoping to, sit in, remain solid, and perhaps get something from a set piece or whatever. But yeah, Pavlovic goes sprinting through, gets brought down. It's a penalty. About to be game over, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, did any of us actually think that? When we get a penalty, I instantly just feel uncontrolled amounts of dread. Like, I just know, like, this could just be fine, or it could be another story in the saga. But actually, sorry, to speak about Pavlovic's thing, right? The runs in behind. Okay, I know I've been critical of him because it is just ridiculously frustrating sometimes when he just ignores build up and he's just like, actually, I'm just gonna be all the way over there while all his other teammates are still at the back trying to figure it out, right? But at the same time, like you kind of said, when we play these teams, it's kind of like we don't have a set way of breaking down teams. Like, the great teams have a very, very this is how their goals look like, and we don't have that whatsoever. So we have to kind of pull together any mishmash of okay, Pavlovic can kind of dribble. Might be an avenue to score. Atakame can cross. Here's an avenue to score. Bartesaghi can cross. Here's an avenue to score, and so on and so. You know what I'm saying? Rabiot's an amazing ball striker. Maybe a knockdown and have him we have to just kind of keep bringing these little pieces. Okay,
it's like the low percentage plays that add up to the overall one.
Exactly. Like, we have to work within the margins so much, right, to kind of win these games. And so, yes, when he does that against the worst teams, it undoubtedly has value. And I think that's probably part of why Allegri lets him do it, right? Because nobody understands the value of these margins more than Allegri. And then once the penalty, is given, you're just immediately like, okay. So I did the math. I went back and looked at the stats. Over the past 2 seasons, we've had 7 different penalty takers, which in itself is just absurd, right? 7 different penalty takers, 5 of whom have missed a penalty. Okay, the only 2 who are 100% are Leon Kunku, both not on the field. So it's just it's honestly just it's a disaster that I don't know how you mitigate at this point. Like, the penalty thing is a real issue. It's a real situation. Even when Leao went 2 of 2, we still went. He got injured, so we started with Nkunku, and then when Nkunku went 2 of 2, and the third one came, and both of them were on the field, Allegri was like, actually, let's just have Nkunku take it again. And so that makes it seem like Nkunku's our penalty taker, but he's not necessarily a starter if everybody's fit. So I'm just like, dude, I don't know, man. And Leao, despite the fact that both penalties he's taken have been absolutely spectacular, there's still a little hint of fear every time he takes a penalty.
Yeah. We've got some unconventional techniques when it comes to taking penalties, right? So I think Pulysic tends to go the Ibrahimovic way. He runs up and hits it low and hard bottom left. Leao tends to take it with a bit of whip with the instep, and as you say, it's resulted in 2 nicely taken penalties this time. Nkunku, he sort of hits it hard with the instep, and direction is not necessarily the strength. There was that one that kind of squirmed in when the keeper might have done better. And it just makes you wonder: is there anyone in the team that's going to step up and just thunder cunt it? Why is there anyone who will just make sure that you hit it hard and it goes in? And I thought Fulkrug might be that guy. He'd scored 27 out of 29 penalties in his
Seriously?
career. Up until this point. Yeah. So for all the people saying he shouldn't have taken it, I know he's got a broken toe. There is that. So should you be taking a penalty when your broken toe is on your strong foot, and that's your penalty-taking foot? I don't know. Only he will know how much that has impacted him. But I think out of everyone on the field there, with the benefit of hindsight, yes, he missed the target, and therefore you're never going to score when you miss the target. But knowing that his penalty record was so good, and knowing that he shouldn't dick about with it. He's a no-nonsense old-school centre-forward. He should step up and hit it hard. And he didn't really do that. He just kind of rolled it wide, hit the base of the post. It wasn't good. And it's one of those where the game can then kind of hinge on that moment, right? So while it's an opportunity for us to put it to bed, and we're probably looking then at another Bologna game where it's 3-0, we can rest and rotate and everyone's happy, we get out there with minimal fuss. If you don't score that, it can give Pisa belief out of nowhere. And that is exactly what happened. And then the guy who gave away the penalty, Loyola, was the guy who scored the equalising goal. Anything to add on the penalty, or do you want to move on to the equaliser?
No, we can move on to the equalizer. I mean, like you said, I wanted to say, because I was this close to tweeting it, but like the 15 minutes after we scored were some of the best 15 minutes of the season, I thought, in terms of so often we have taken the lead against these teams, and it's looked like, are we really trying to score again? Because it doesn't seem like they had the urgency for a lot of these other games, but against Pisa, there was the urgency 1,000%. Rabiot scores the disallowed goal. There's the penalty, but there was a very sustained spell of possession, and they had started becoming more probing. Like we had talked about how the first goal comes from like a lot of stale possession. All right, cool. This one, after we scored, we had actually started to go at them a little bit more. And for that, and it should have culminated into culminated. There's the goal.
There we go.
Culminated in the penalty to go 2-0 up. That probably would have just sealed the game and kind of had a nice nice bow on it. And then it's just all hell breaks loose after that. It's always like this. Every time we miss a penalty, because we've now become experts about what happens after you miss a penalty, right? we know exactly how the game goes after that. And that's exactly how it happened.
When we miss a penalty, it's basically the same as giving the opponent a goal, because we so often concede sooner. I kind of, from a psychological point of view, I can understand it, because we're all thinking the same thing as fans. So likely the players are thinking the same thing, which is just score from 12 yards. We have been better with penalties this season as well, so I felt a little bit more confident about it. And then it's we've got a really nice last 40, well, what would it have been? About 30 minutes plus change, whatever. And you're conditioned to think that way. And then when it doesn't happen, all of a sudden you look at the scoreboard and it's oh my God, they're just one moment away from being back level in this game. And then what's everyone going to say? And it didn't take them long to draw level. I mean, you've seen the highlights, so I'm happy for you to talk through the goal again, because I've kind of forgotten it. But from Norwich, it's a ball over the top towards I can't remember his name. Stojakovic?
Oh, you're talking, I don't know.
About the equaliser, yeah. And Tomori kind of, he sort of ends up between Tomori and Gabbia, but Tomori's the wrong side of his man for it, which then allows him to kind of almost muster a ball in across the box. And Gabbia seems to be stuck between making an attempt to block the lane for the cutback or whether to go and challenge the man. So he just ends up flat-footed and the ball rolls past him. Pavlovic attempts to be the one to cut out the danger with I'd say a pretty weak cut-out attempt anyway. And then the ball just kind of rolls for Loyola, who slots it past Maignan, who goes the other way. The strike kind of goes down the middle of the goal, a little bit to the right, but he'd wrong-footed him by that point. So, 1-1, and we're all thinking typical. But I think it was just a accumulation of little errors within this that led to the ball falling to him.
Yeah, it was kind of all three center backs had a like equal, not equal, but they all had a share of the issue. I think Tomori and Pavlovic are probably the biggest culprits, but I was really annoyed by Gabia's presence in there as well because if you actually watch the goal again, it's like okay, the ball goes over the top of Tomori, which in a way, okay, fine, you can get beat by just the ball over the top, and there should be somebody to recover, but he got beat like really just very silly to be that far advanced at that point because you can see the run. It's not like it was a run that came from behind him. He gets Tomori, so Tomori gets beat, and then Gabia makes the right decision initially to come across to kind of try to stop it, but then right as the ball is right as Stojkovic or whatever his name is about to like cross the ball, Gabia just kind of like lets off and retreats, and then which gives him just enough space to square the ball. And now Gabby is completely out of the play. He can't help Pavlovic on one end, and he couldn't contest the pass on the other. So it's like, what was your presence even there? Like you made the right decision. If you're gonna commit, like fully commit, go in there and be face to face with him and try to block the pass, which he had the opportunity to do if he had committed, but he stops and he starts retreating, and he gives him that extra 2 or 3 yards of space to play the pass, and then Pavlovic comes in and he sticks out a leg, and it's like, no, if you're gonna be, he was in the right position, he did all the things right, but if you're gonna be there, like put your foot through the fucking ball. There's no excuse for having a little like itty bitty touch, and it falls to Loyola like you said, and he just finishes. And then like Mike, it was a weird looking one. We know Mike gambles. Mike stands in weird places, which is why if you watch, it's something like if you watch a Mike like comp where it's his great saves, right? They all hit him right in the chest, right? Like there's like all his iconic Derby saves. It's like it's literally like he's doing
straight
this
at him.
right. But it's straight at him, not because the guy took a terrible shot. It's straight at him because he stands in places that goalkeepers never stand, right? And he makes what would have been a really difficult save look really easy, which is a credit to him, but also why he gets beat at his near post because he stands weird places and he kind of gambles that it's going to go across or things like that. And for that one, he just completely I don't know why he thought he was going to go left because everything was his whole body's leaning right, like everything about the goal kind of suggests he's going right. But anyway, I mean, I'm not gonna blame too much on the goalkeeper for not saving a point blank right in his face goal. But yeah, it was just really disappointing from all three center backs, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I just watched it back there as you were talking through it, and yeah, I think you can apportion a bit of blame to all of them. You've got to question how Stojkovic has ended up behind Tomori in that situation.
He does it. It's so poor. It's so poor because this is the thing with Tomori. It's like, dude, I know you're faster than him, okay, and I get it. Like, and sometimes he takes that for granted. Like Tomori's value was at an all-time high when we were playing at the halfway line, right? Because then if he makes a mistake, he has I don't know how many yards to kind of make up for it with this pace. But now you're playing on the box. You're playing on the edge of the box. There's no more room for gambles. You have 5 yards to recover, and you're never going to recover. Like
we're a goal up as well. Like you don't need to be so aggressive. Yeah. The only way that they create an opening is if someone gets behind you, and that is exactly what happened.
And it's not the first time he's done it because against Atalanta with the Lookman goal, he does the exact same thing.
Yeah,
there's a ball on the edge of the box, and he's just waiting. He has this like crazy frenzy. See ball, go get ball. It's like, no, dude, you're the center back now, and there's 3 guys ahead of you. Like we're protecting you. You don't need to be that aggressive.
Yeah, fully agree. Yeah, and then obviously Allegri was furious because he's right to be. We went to goal up. We had the game in hand. Even with the missed penalty, we're still winning. Just a case of managing the moments, and we didn't do that. So he made a couple of changes initially where Ricci and Luka came on for Fofana and Loftus-Cheek. And then Atakame came off for Pulysic. And then we saw a bit of a switch to a 4-3-3. And I think you can make a strong argument that we played, our best football with this changing system, and it's not for the first time that it's happened where it's created a goal that we needed. There was a really, really good move that led to a cross for Fulkrug, which he kind of, I don't know, volleyed wide at the near post. And it was Richie who, again, had found his way onto the right wing, which he's done before to provide service. And then it's like, okay, we can still get at these. We're going to create another big chance. We just need to stay in there because they're going to go back to defending the result that they have in hand. And then, in the 85th minute, cometh the hour, cometh the man, 40 years old, the maestro. What I love about this is, and like we said it in his press conference today, and I liked it. He said the difference between normal players and champions is that if in a game situation it's not going your way, the champions, their expression just changes. And they're like, okay, no, we can't accept this. And Modric really did, this is me now, not Allegri. Modric really did do a fuck it, I'll do it myself type thing then. And I love that. He said, all right, I'll do it. If you lot are useless, just allow me to do it. Gets the ball kind of left of centre, maybe 30, 40 yards out, whatever. Drives forward with it. Richie, for some reason, playing as a false nine in this situation. But I think it was at that point when we were trying to make the front three a front five and just get bodies in there and cause a bit of panic. Rolls the ball into him. I thought just for a split second, Richie had kind of ruined the chance by falling over as he received it. But if you look at the replay that's available on, the official highlights, Richie at no point gives the ball to the opponent. He just about manages to keep it in his feet, and then he rolls it with his left foot straight into the path of Modric, who stabs it over the keeper, almost toe pokes it, but just about lifts it over the on-rushing goalkeeper. It was, I think it was Pisa's third choice goalkeeper. They were having a bit of a crisis there, but just what a moment, and My first feeling was relief, I'm not going to lie, because I think we all knew if we'd have dropped points in that game, then that's it, especially with Inter to then beat Juventus. And what a way it would have been for it to end, with more penalty drama, with shit defending and stuff. And yet we won, and yet it was him, his second winner of the season. And it just felt like a massive weight lifted. And it was a nice goal to do it.
Yeah, I think there's obviously what Allegri's talking about in terms of the mentality, but from the technical standpoint of what Modric does, I highlighted it before in one of my videos where he's so he's patient in every phase of the game, but when it's his turn to score, there's a beauty in the patience that he has there as well. And you kind of I don't know if you remember the Bologna goal early in the season when he scored the winner, where he kind of starts the move, plays the pass all the way to the right. And he doesn't just sprint. He doesn't just start sprinting into the area. He's walking, waiting. And then as Salamakers at the time cuts back, then he just sprints. And by that time, the Bologna guy who's next to him, who's been lulled into he's just walking around he's just gone, right? And he gets in that space and he scores. And he kind of does that here where he plays the pass to Ricci, but he doesn't instantly just dart into the box, right? He just kind of waits. And as soon as he sees that, okay, actually Ricci has retained possession, like you said, and he has a chance, then he just makes that quick dart in there. And then the touch to get away from the center back, the sliding center back. Oh my God, dude. It's so simple, but it's there's about 25 players in our squad who, if that touch would have been too heavy to get the shot off the net, right? Yeah. But it's so delicate, he's just getting right out of this clusterfuck of all these players, and he just did one little touch, and now it's just him in the goal, and the little outside of the boot dink. It's just it's beautiful. It's a beautiful goal, and he's an amazing player, and it's everything that he provides. He provides a calm and a patience for a team that has incredibly little of it otherwise, honestly.
Yeah, you sort of wonder where we'd be without him, and that's not just because of the moments like that. It's just, as you say, the composure that he brings in certain moments of the game. And I think he must at times, he would never do it because he's not a big shouty character like some players that you see, but he must sometimes look around and think, what the fuck are this lot doing? About his own teammates, genuinely, because he's 100%. He's won the biggest things, he's been in the biggest moments, the biggest stages, the biggest games, all that kind of thing, for club and for country even. And yeah, there must be times when he just thinks, who am I playing with here? This is so strange. What's going on?
Can I tell you where you see it the most? Just watch him by himself. Watch him when Tomori or Pavlovic receives the ball. Okay? No, I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
I highlighted this in one of my videos. I did a whole video on Modric, basically just like looking at clips doing it like that. When Tomori or Pavlovic receives the ball, he will sprint from the other side of the field all the way right to them and just be like, "Give me the ball."
Give it,
Like, just right here.
yeah.
Just like, don't worry, I got it. Okay, and like he know because I remember the Cremonese game, the first game of the season, where I was just like, oh, he has too much faith in these guys, dude. He doesn't get it yet, right? And since then, he's just been like, no, it's fine. Just give me the ball. I got it.
Yeah. You go back there.
It's
and then
good.
Pavlovich goes,
Okay,
wee. No, you're right. And I do wonder if he. I mean, there's part of me that's like, of course, he knew what he was signing up for when he joined us, right? He's gone from Real Madrid to this, but at the same time, I guess you could argue it gives him that little bit more freedom. Like the keys to the team are literally yours.
I think he loves it. I think he loves the challenge. There's no way he came here for the challenge.
There's a romantic element to it, of course, as well, given that he's a boyhood fan of the club. What I loved is that, as said, he has played in the biggest games in world football, and he's won just about everything that there is to put in the trophy cabinet. And yet he scores a late winner against Pisa, and he's in front of the curver, banging the badge. And I'm like, I was so gassed by that. I'm like, this gets him fired up, everything he's done, and he's just. Yeah, that to me is like, if you ever doubt how much it means to him and why he's done this, then you see it there.
Yeah. The Napoli game as well, when he fell to his knees at the foot, I'm like, he's a psycho. Why does he care this much? He's won everything already. Like, but it's what makes him so elite. It's the same thing with Zlatan. Like, you're just like, why do these people care this much at this point in their career? And it's just like, it's inexplicable. They're just insane.
It's funny because there's been multiple interviews this season with members of the team, and Allegri said it again in his presser today. But they all say he's just obsessed with football. Like sometimes you get those players who are like, I don't even really watch football. I just do it because it's my job and I happen to be good at it. There's some high profile cases of that. Then sometimes you get players who are the opposite. The reason they're at that level is because they've dedicated every single minute, second, every fibre of their being towards getting the most out of their career that they can. And we are witnessing a fairy tale. Like, there's no two ways about it. Whether it ends with him lifting the shiny, glistening Scudetto trophy, I don't know. Whether we get a second season of it, I'm not entirely sure either. But for now, we can just enjoy it and the moments that he's bringing us. Finally, Rabiot red card. I have arguments about it. I thought the foul was soft, to be honest, on the edge of the box, but it was also a bit of a clumsy intervention to make because that was the only way that they were going to fashion something to potentially equalise, and he gives it away right on the edge of the box. My normal take on it would be just shut up and get on with it, like get in the box, take your position, and Rabiot does give a little bit to the linesman mostly, I think, because he was the one who flagged it, and then he turns on the referee, which was Michael Fabry. Less said about him, the better. And he sort of... Yeah, he gives him just enough for the second yellow to come out. Now, he probably already knows that after the first yellow, he's missing the Como game. Maybe he's not entirely sure on the rules, or maybe he is. But, knowing that it's one game ban either way, he'll miss that game. He's maybe got a bit more for his change there. And, gets the red card. Not great, because when he comes back, he'll be back to being on 4 yellow cards. So effectively that kind of rolls on the jeopardy. Just the one thing that will piss Allegri off, I think, and probably his teammates a little bit too, is that you'll leave your team a man down there with a few minutes still to see out. But apart from that, I thought it was pretty petulant refereeing again.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that a lot over this week. But I think we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we will. Anyway, we see it out. 3 points. Happy days. Quick look at the stats, and then we'll do top and flop. The stats make it look a bit easier than it probably was. Yeah. And again, I think we're sort of conditioned, aren't we, by now in terms of how the results have been against newly promoted bottom 5, bottom 10 teams, saying that, well, we just scraped by, therefore it was an inadequate performance. And you don't really look at what actually happened in the game and the fact that, if a certain moment goes our way, we're talking about a way more comfortable victory. But we have 2/3 of the ball, pretty much. XG, of course, 0.95 of it, or whatever is the penalty that was missed. But 2.35 XG to their 0.77. We had double the big chances, 4-2. Total shots being the same and shots on target being the same is a little bit of a concern because that suggests we had a lot of the territory without actually doing too much with it. And we, again, had a really low corner number. We only had one. And I think in these games against teams that set up a certain way, set pieces can become an extra avenue. We just perhaps didn't generate the volume of attacking play to yield set pieces, to yield 20 shots. So that might be just a little bit of alarm that, there's a very realistic world where we don't have that Modric moment and we're talking about more dropped points. And then you start looking at trends like this and saying, well, we just didn't do enough to win the game, So it's fine margins, but we got it done.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't shoot unless we see the whites of the goalkeeper's eyes, basically. As a team, that's why we never get corners. We only shoot if it's like right in there. So.
Yeah. I think I saw something as well that we're the lowest ranked Serie A team for goals outside the box. I think we've had 2 this season. Rabiot against Torino, and I think it was a Leao one against Pisa in the first leg where he kind of whips in that low.
Was it? No, I think it was the one against Fiorentina, maybe.
Yeah, it might have been that. Yeah, but yeah, we're low anyway on goals from outside the box, and that's maybe why not speculative enough. Top of the match for me is Luka Modric. Don't need to really say much else.
Same.
Flop, I'm going to go Tomori because out of the 3 centre-backs, and as we've agreed, kind of it was all of them at fault. But yeah, out of the 3 centre-backs, I hold him mostly responsible for how the chance initially comes about, and that could have cost us points. I was going to say the easy thing to say is Fulkrug because he misses the penalty, but I feel like I'd be a bit of a hypocrite. Because I've sometimes then again he missed the target, didn't he? You can't miss the target. He's probably
and
full
he had the handball.
That's true, yeah. And he did miss that one from the Richie cross, which would have been a really good goal if it had gone in.
And if he had let it go, Pulysic was scoring. Right behind him was there. It was like, all right.
Full crook it is then.
Yeah,
for all the reasons that we said.
Here's my fault.
Yeah, let's look at some of the results then from around the weekend. We said it was the weekend of big head-to-heads, and Atalanta prevail in El Midico. Lazio are faltering out there. I think actually, I've got the table somewhere, but they're 9th in the league now. Atalanta take that one. Oh, we should say as well, our opponents coming up, Como lost at home to Fiorentina. They've, that's a pretty big blow for them before they play us because they've dropped out of the European places for now, which hasn't happened much recently, and they got the red card for Morata too.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to preview it for a second, if somebody watched that game, Fagioli actually did a really, really good Modric impression. And so hopefully, the original can just kind of take. I mean, they could not touch him at all. Like they could not touch him the whole game. He was destroying them. Right. I thought it was Como's worst performance of the season, honestly.
Right. Well, that's good to know before they play.
Yeah.
My one question mark about Como, and we've said the same a little bit about Inter too, in terms of their numbers on like PPDA, their pressing numbers and stuff, is can they keep up this intensity for the entire season? And I just wonder if Como their squad's pretty good. I think their squad is larger in depth than what ours is. And, they don't have Europe to contend with this season. But Inter as well, obviously fighting on multiple fronts. When it gets to the dog days of February and March, are they able to keep up this ridiculous intensity? And we'll see. We'll see with how Como come and set up against us. But that was a big win for Fiorentina too, obviously in their battle against relegation. Let's do into Juve then. Scandal.
It was an absolute disgrace. I was very, very obviously upset. I was very angry. With the referee specifically, I think after watching it again, after calming down the next day, I was like, if you watch it in live time, I thought it was let me say, when it first happened, my first reaction was, Kalulu, you absolute moron.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed. Yeah.
So I can't sit there with the aerial view, right, and say, how could the referee give a yellow card there? No, I completely understand how he could give a yellow card. it was an incredible dive from a diving perspective. It was one of the best. No, I'm serious, because from a diving perspective, you could almost not tell. Like without the replay, you could not tell that that's what happened.
Well executed.
Right. So I have to give the referee himself as an individual some benefit of the doubt there, because it's a really hard decision. The fact that VAR can't review that is a huge oversight that should have been fixed a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And it will happen now. Like they're definitely going to change it now, but it's a little too late. And then the game itself, I think, this is my bias, but I honestly do believe this. Like I think that game, the fact that Inter had to win that way, right, for their first big win of the season, to me, just kind of reinforces what I've always thought, is that yes, this is a team that's going to get 90-something points, and it's not a great team. It is not a great team. You cannot be measured. Your greatness cannot be measured against teams where you significantly out-talent them, right? Every single team that has even slightly comparable talent, they can't handle. And when them actually winning boiled down to actually something you mentioned. They're elite. They're elite at two things, right? One is they're the best crossing team in the world. And when push came to shove, DiMarco, who has a million big chances created at this point and a million assists, puts a beautiful ball to Pio Esposito to get the lead at the time. And then when push came to shove again, they're also the second best team in Europe in top 5 leagues for goals outside the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Zielinski scores. They have, in the big games against Juve, Hakan scored those 2 long rangers. Like they're amazing crossers and they score from outside the box, and that's ultimately their recipe for success. Not that they've had a lot of it against the good teams, and I think like they're the heavy favorites. But every time I watch them, I think these guys are not against teams that can go at them. They're not as good as they're advertised. They're just not.
No, I think it's such a frustrating one, because the way that I feel, obviously, and the way we all feel as Milanisti, doesn't really reflect the result, in the sense that we should be talking about the fact that this has injected life into the title race,
100%.
because they dropped points, because their performance didn't deserve a win. They were a man up, and they were winning the game, and then Locatelli provides that moment, and I'm thinking, I honestly thought that Locatelli goal, which has its own subplot with him being an ex-Milan player and stuff like that, I thought that was something we look back on and say that was where a turning point was in terms of, reigniting the Scudetto battle. And then the Zielinski goal goes in, and I'm kind of glad that there's been a massive fallout in ways of everyone questioning the legitimacy of Inter's win. I don't think that hurts, rather than if they'd won fair and square, shall we say. But at the same time, none of it matters, because they still won, and that gap in the table remains the same. And it's all, the means are there, but the end is not, kind of thing. And, it's back to pressure on us against Como tomorrow night. And it just leaves a really bitter taste, to be honest. But in terms of result aside, all of the concerns about them in big games and I guess just generally, and all of the frailties kind of came to a head once again. And the hope is that it catches up with them in time. But that did feel like a potential big game and big moment. And unfortunately, what they get out of it is a last-minute winner. So it kind of sucks.
Yeah, I loved kind of you referencing Allegri's press conference, and I only saw it right before we started recording, but I loved him saying the comparison to the Montari ghost goal, right? Mm. I loved him saying we did not lose the title that year because of the Montari ghost goal, which is absolutely true. Absolutely. We had a lead after that game. We drew. Nobody remembers this, but we drew that game. We didn't lose, right? And we dropped the points later on. But I love it in him saying, like, nobody gets an excuse to feel down because Inter won this game in an unfair fashion, right? Like, I've said this, and I got the way that game played out. I was even invigorated. I was like, we are going to go into that derby and we're going to win it, and we're going to do it ourselves, right? Mm. And if we do that, it's a 2-point gap. Like we had kept saying, just be within 5. We have the opportunity to do that. Be within 5 going into that derby. We absolutely have the opportunity to do that. And if you do that, go beat them. And then they can crumble because they're waiting for the first team to really test them, to really put them to the sword. And I think we can do that.
They've got that Bodo thing is probably actually looking at it now, not what they wanted. It's tough. Yeah, they got to travel. It's a 4,000-kilometer round trip, which is mental. And the difference in temperature between where they're going to play tomorrow night and where they're playing at the weekend, which is Lecce, is going to be about 30 degrees Celsius.
And Bodo never lose at home.
Basically. No. So they could find themselves in it's the travel, it's the temperature, it's everything that comes with the testing trip, but potentially they have a tie to win next week. So things are dialing up a little bit. So they got over that hurdle, and we'll see. But it does kind of feel like every time we say, there's a moment coming, it never comes because they just they win. But let's see. Other stuff from the round, I guess Napoli-Roma we should talk about was a fantastic spectacle. I really, really enjoyed this game, and I enjoyed it more because the end result was a draw. But when Roma were winning, I was also fine with that for obvious reasons. But yeah, this was a good advert for Serie A. I was fearing that we could be looking at a 1-0 or a 1-1. Conte is going to go back to his old ways, and Gasparini's team have been really defensively solid this season. It kind of had the recipe for being a tight Derby della Sole. But yeah, it was a good spectacle. Donny O'Malley, what a signing he's been, eh?
Amazing. The goal he had against Cagliari the other day where he rounds the defender and trips the keeper. Oh my God. The game in general was kind of marked by these January additions. Because on one hand you have Milan, and then on the other hand, you have Vergara is he wasn't a signing, but he basically wasn't a Napoli player until all those guys got hurt, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, fine, we have this guy, and he's playing, and he's been amazing, and then they bring on Alisson Santos, who I think I know a lot of football, and I know a lot of football. I've never heard of that guy. I don't know who.
No, I hadn't.
3 million signing from Sporting, which is when did Sporting start giving discounts, right? No, I'm serious he comes on, and every single time he touched the ball, it was electric. I was like, wow, and he scores the brilliant goal and whatever. Is the way Napoli are going right now? They're actually very, very good attacking wise, and none of those center backs are competent in any way, shape, or form. Because even Rahmani got injured again as he gave away the penalty, so it's like they're going to be must watch, honestly, because they can't defend anything, and they're being really good attacking wise.
Yeah, and it was a mad game. I enjoyed it. I always enjoyed the chaos. There were chances for both teams to win it too, but yeah, finishes 2-2, which is good for us. I was just looking as well down at the bottom end of the table. There were some interesting games. Parma piling misery onto Verona, who were rock bottom.
That was a disgrace. The sending off. Have you seen the gift Orban?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just that's a referee. He factually relegated us. There's no other. There's no two ways about it. That is one guy saying you guys are getting relegated. It's done. Because I watched that game, and when that 90 something winner from Pellegrino went in, I was just like, yeah, this is done. This is this is an absolute disgrace. Honestly, I felt bad because I think Hellas have been one of the 17 best teams in the league this year, and their just results have never shown that.
Yeah, they. I mean, there's still time for them, but that gap is now 9 points. So yeah, I'm thinking, are they going to gain that many points on? Just looking at Lecce, who won 2-0 at Cagliari last night to give them a bit more breathing room. Cremonese and Genoa drew. So while that's not the worst, it means they both picked up a point. So yeah, they're chasing the pack that they're chasing is quite far away now. And I think they're heading back to Serie B, and it was because of a pretty farcical incident. See some people sharing that Gift Orban tweet, but I don't think it's actually him. I think
there's no chance in hell that's him.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because otherwise it's a pretty explosive thing to say. All right, let's and here's the table. Here's how it looks. It's kind of It takes us nicely into the Como preview because obviously it's our game in hand, but it's kind of starting to space out a little bit now, is what I'd say. So outside of European spots there, you've got Como on 41. You don't even really need to look at what's below that because Bologna are 8 points away. Atalanta in the Conference League spot on 42. Juve in 5th now on 46 points. And then you've got, the top 4 is Roma in 4th, then Napoli, then us, and then Inter. Means that if we win our game in hand against Como, we go 10 clear of 5th spot. So you're getting towards the territory of Champions League being in the bag there, I think. Just with the amount of games narrowing down, the fact we've only got the league to focus on, it would take a pretty big collapse from there. Let's talk about it. Allegri v Fabregas, the rematch. Did you see the banner on the weekend in the Como v Fiorentina game?
Was it one Fabregas worth 100 Allegris or something, right?
He said one game under Fabregas is better than 100 under Allegri. Which they lost that game to Fiorentina. Interesting.
Yeah. And they again, they did not play well at all.
No. That being said, I'm still slightly fearful for this game, and it's partly because of the precedent. Obviously, we played them just over 1 month ago in the return game in Como, and it took basically a one-man show from Adrian Rabiot to get us out of the shit. And we don't have that this time. Well, we don't have him this time because obviously he's suspended for this game. And there's a few doubts about, the team in each department. Obviously, do you bring Divinta back in? How the hell do you replace Rabiot? Do you risk Salamakers on that right side, or do you keep going with Atakame, who might struggle against a team like Como with their pace and directness? What front two are you naming? Is anybody even 100% fit in the front two? This, for me, is the lineup with the most mystery going into it of the entire season so far. And we come up against a Como team that we know are capable of playing very well on their day. Results might not have gone brilliantly recently, but after they lost to us in that 3-1, they beat someone 3-0 and then someone 6-0. So it's like, okay, when they're fired up, they can turn it back on, So there's that as well. Probably Fabregas fancies some revenge, given what he said after the previous game and stuff. There are the ingredients for this to be a difficult night, is what I'm trying to say. Do you agree?
100%. I mean, they're very, very talented, despite the fact, I've been laughing at them for the performance, but they're very, very talented. And they have, in my opinion, 2 of the best players in the league over the past month in Nico Paz and Baturina. And so they're scary to play against. And I think the lack of Rabiot, and I saw a report that it's going to be Loftus-Cheek who replaces him probably, which is its own problems. And then I'm going to contradict a lot of what I've been saying for the past podcast, which is I think if you want to gamble on Leao and Pulysic, now might be the time. This might be the one. If you want to, because we have Parma after this at home. That's a game you can give Loftus-Cheek and Nkunku. If Leao and Pulysic have something in their legs, this might be the one where you have to just kind of break glass in case of emergency. Because it's going to be tough. Even in the first Como game, where yes, it was obviously Rabiot who was dominant, but even Leao in his 50% capacity, who couldn't move, he still sets up the first goal, right? With the really nice chip in behind and all that. We're gonna need the second goal it was, but regardless, we're gonna need some more creativity. And the thing, okay, I don't know if you agree with this, but when Leao has come on the field, despite the fact that the way they've talked about the injuries, they talk about it like Leao is closer to playing than Pulysic, right? And yet when they come on the field, Leao looks like he doesn't have a leg, right?
Yeah.
And Pulysic looks like he's just he's a buzzing bee all over the place.
Pulysic looks like he's 100%, but potentially only for 20 minutes. Right. Whereas Leao looks like he can play for longer, but he's capped at 50%. And the commentators I think the commentators go into it sort of almost preconditioned, knowing that Leao, he does rely on his athleticism. They know that he's injured and stuff. So when you watch him and he doesn't make that quick burst to the left side, the commentators always pick it out. And, he hasn't really done that all season, to be totally honest.
Yeah,
There's been a couple of moments, but he's playing in a different way this season. So we might not expect that even when he is 100% fit. But there was one moment in that Pisa game when he was 1v1 with his man over towards the left side. He didn't even think about taking him on. Perhaps it's because we were. I think at that point we were back ahead. I could be wrong, but I remember thinking, you're not even trying. You're not. Not trying. I mean, you're not attempting to do it because you're worried about what happens.
I think sometimes he gets the ball and you're like, this is a guy who's scared of what might happen to his body if if he just tries to do it, to do the step over and push the ball, which is what he always does. Like he has not had that probably since the first Roma game. The first Roma game, he does that to set up Pavlovic, and it was like, I remember thinking dude, that was his first sprint of the game. He had saved it all up, gets the sprint, sets up the goal, and then he was kind of back in his little box. And he's just kind of played like that. And you can see, this is a guy who's thinking more than playing. He's thinking about every move he's having to make. There's times where he receives the ball with the guy on his shoulder, and he wants to turn that really quick burst, and it's not coming. The burst is not there, and he's getting dispossessed. And there was I saw a lot of people getting frustrated because he had that one against Pisa, and then he fouled the guy in transition and all that. And I'm just like, you guys I'm sorry, but this is a guy who's physically can't do it.
Yeah.
He can't do it right now. And I'm so confused. Maybe he has more stamina. And at the same time, all that said, I still might start him tomorrow because because if he's just stationary, he still might offer more insight.
Can create a moment.
Yeah.
It's funny because we were saying it was after the Bologna game, wasn't it, going into the Pisa game, about the importance against certain opponents of just having players that are 100% healthy, who can just put everything into helping break down a low block and everything like that. And that's what we saw with RLC and Nkunku starting up front. But you'll be delighted to know Milan News have Nkunku Leao starting up front. So they think Rafa goes back in. They've got Atakami still starting, Fofana, Modric, Ricci, and Bartazaki as the midfield line. But no Divinta, Tomori Gabi Pavlovic again.
Okay, I mean, I love the midfield. And I think that's the right attack. And if what you're saying is right, which is Pulysic is coming on and he can only have a certain amount of minutes. But again, he looks really lively in those minutes. He does, yeah. And so if he can do that, if he gives 30 minutes at the end where they're more tired or whatever, and we can keep the game competitive, then there's definitely something there. And I do think I think Allegri will also, if this is a guy who learns from his mistakes, I think he won't be naive in thinking. There was a lot of commentary after the first game where it's we did it. We are better than we're resultistas. That's fine. You guys can have your performances. I don't think Allegri will actually look at it that way. He will not have watched that game and seen Mike be the man of the match or close to it and think, this is actually how we wanted to play. There's no, you know what I'm saying? That's
he did say that as well. After that game and in the presser earlier, he said we only stayed in that game because of Mike. So he's
he's not happy. We joke about that, screw Fabregas, whatever. He, as a manager, is not looking at that being let's do that again. There's no way he wants that.
No. It's not sustainable against teams of a certain quality, and Como have a lot of it. I think they tried to play the best football in the league. I say try to because it doesn't always come off, because with a lot of the young players like they have, there's ups and downs, and they've got to go through certain things. But they've taken a big jump forward this season, to be challenging for European positions, as we kind of thought that they might. I mean, they net spent over 100 million in the summer, and they spent another 20-ish, I think, in January to add a couple more pieces. The team that they put out, or the team they're meant to put out, is Butes in goal, Ramon and Kempf as the centre backs. We've had problems with Kempf already. Smolcic and Valle, I guess, as the full backs. De Cunha and Perrone as the double pivot, Nico Paz as the attacking midfielder, Rodriguez and Batarina either side of Duvikas. That can cause, even if this was a team that was going to come sit in and try hit us on the counter, that could cause problems because there's some really lively and technical and direct players in there. But with the way that they play, it'll be interesting because they've taken the lead every game they've played against us since they came back up in all three games, and we've come back in all three games. I don't back us to do it a fourth time. I'm going to be honest. I don't. I'm not saying we are going to fall behind. I just think we can't bank on doing the same thing again, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have to be better defensively and allow them less. We're going to have to just take the sting out of the game when it dictates, even if it means there's different ways you can do it, of course, but it seems that knocking it up to the front two is not going to be an option with 50% Lee Howard and Kunku. So we are going to have to perhaps be patient and pass it around the back a little bit and draw them out and look for moments. But we can't repeat the performance and win 3-1, I don't think. And that's regardless of if Rabiot was there or not. So I'm a little bit fearful about this one, a little bit on edge. If you fast forward 48 hours and you tell me we've lost the game, I'm not massively stunned.
Neither am I, but this is probably the biggest game of our season so far. In terms of, if we go on from here, we could really arrive at that derby with a chance to beat them and make it a title race. And that only happens if we have to win here. And it's it's our most difficult game before what sets us up for an actual title race. I still think we can do it. Also because if there's any like we talk about, Allegri will definitely change things because of what happened the first game. I know who won't change things, and it's Fabregas. He will absolutely go rolling with the same mentality, same thing. We're going to play them. We're going to beat them. We're going to do it how we do it and all that stuff. And that's cool because now Allegri gets to plan for exactly he knows exactly what to plan for. And if you do that, I think I back the guy to do it.
Yeah. In terms of changes, would you alter the Milan News 11? Is De Winter coming back in for you? Is Richie enough in midfield? Because, without Rabiot, we're lacking a bit of size in there.
I would play Richie just because you were talking about taking this thing out of the game. I think we have to try to do that in possession. Like if going long is not the option, which it probably won't be, we have to try to keep some of the ball in midfield. Like we were really, really bad at that in the first leg. And obviously Rabiot's even better than Richie, but I think it's gonna have to be that over Loftus-Cheek. And then I would have De Winter coming in over Tomori. But again, I don't know. I guess Allegri likes that trio for some reason.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what Jashari has to do, because I think
he's just not. He's just never gonna play. He's never gonna play with Modric. No, I'm serious.
No,
because I keep seeing the reports. He's like, oh, he's a Modric's mentor. I'm like, dude, he's the second best possession midfielder. Like, stop talking about him like he's a child.
But is there not a way that you can get them both in, even if it means moving Modric? He's not going to do it, is he? But
there is a way. He's just not going to do it. It seems. So no. I want to see it, and I think this is the exact game where you should do it, but he's not going to do it. So it's like might as well.
Prediction then? You think we're going to do it?
I'm going to continue to be positive. Okay, I'm going to say we win 1-0.
Whoa, clean sheet. It'd be nice if we keep these out.
Mike is going to make 18 saves, but it's a clean sheet nonetheless.
Tough. See, I called us to lose our unbeaten run the last time we played Como, and after 45 minutes or whatever, like 42 minutes, I was on my high horse thinking, nailed this one. They're just too good for us. They've got too much of everything for us. And then obviously it unfurled the way it did. So then I'm like, do I ever doubt Max and his dark arts again? I'm going to go down the middle and say a 1-1 draw. And I think that would be pretty bad. And I hope to be wrong. I always hope to be wrong with my predictions, unless I predict a rare win. Let's move on. Just quickly talk about Parma. Obviously, difficult to say too much about the starting 11s and stuff for this because we don't know what's going to happen between now and then. How are Parma doing this season? They're not great, but they're going to avoid relegation, aren't they?
They're going to avoid relegation. They have talent. They play disgustingly defensive football, despite the fact that they were really, really fun to watch last year. They hired like this 32-year-old coach,
Carlos Cuesta, innit? Who was at set piece again, ole ole.
Yeah, but yeah, they even last game against Hellas, against 10 men for like 92 minutes or whatever, they were not good. But they do have talent. Bernabe, we had issues with him last year. Mandela Keita was fantastic in the Hellas game, really good defensive midfielder, and Pellegrino, just really tall striker.
I like him. I'm not I'm not saying he's good enough for us, but he was the one who really caused us issues in that away game. When they started going direct to him, everything fell apart because we did not have an answer for him.
Yeah,
Everything was sticking to him.
He's good, and I think it's hard to judge him on like his numbers in a team that has played this defensively. I feel like if he had played in last year's version of the team with like Dennis Mann and Sohm and those other guys, he could have easily scored like 10 to 15 goals.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at their recent results, obviously they beat Verona just about in that game. It's a big 3 points, either way, and it's a big win for them. Prior to that, they won the Emilian Derby against Bologna 1-0 in the 95th minute. That's obviously a big boost for them. But again, they were playing against 10 men from the 22nd minute onwards until Troilo got one in the 79th minute to make it 10 each. But they won that. But then you go back here, and then they lost 4-1 at home to Juve. That was when Spalletti's machine was just getting rolling, and we're thinking these lot are serious. They lost 4-0 away at Atalanta. Then they drew 0-0 with Genoa, drew 0-0 away at Napoli. So they're a really kind of polarizing team. They're either edging wins in important games, getting hammered by teams that are more up there, or just defensively solid and keeping consecutive clean sheets. It's a bit of a wild spectrum, that, which is kind of, I guess, why they are where they are. As said, they're not going to go down. They're 12th in the table. They've won 7, drawn 8, and lost 10. Does that say they've only scored 18 goals this season?
They're on track to be one of the worst scoring teams in the history of the league.
So they definitely 2 of them are against us.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
2 of them are also at the weekend. So imagine what they were before that. They had 15 goals when I last looked. It's there's 7 wins. I think like 6 of them have come against their relegation opponents. So they've beaten Pisa, they've beaten Hellas, they've beaten Lecce. They've been terrible against the teams that are better than them, but against all their surroundings, they've won all those games. So that's why they're there.
Yeah. Look, I know. We know how these have been and stuff, so I always feel like saying that as a caveat. But if we are serious, we have to win this. There's no 2 ways about it. We have to keep a clean sheet. I said the same against Pisa and we didn't do it. But we have to keep a clean sheet because these lot cannot score goals for toffee. And we have to win. You've got to hope that, the forwards are getting on a little bit more and they have a bit more in their legs, and we can make this a more routine win. I don't think it's going to be a routine win. I just can't bring myself to say we're going to beat a team 5-0. I'd love us to do an Atalanta and put 4 past them, but I think we win 1-0, and I think it's a second half goal. I think it's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll go 3-1.
Go for Pellegrini.
Yeah.
Which sparks a load of transfer links, naturally. I've got one question, which I think that we should answer because there's been a lot of speculation about it in the past week or so. Not necessarily from any particularly reliable sources, more just the volume of news from England and some sources in Italy. Kieran asks, how damaging would losing Pulysic be to our long-term ambitions? So his contract runs out at the end of next season, technically, but we have an option for an extra season. Which we are likely to activate apparently, but you've got to get that long-term renewal done, I think, in order to keep everyone calm. How do we do this?
Can I be honest? My alarm went off on the phone and then it blocked off the audio. So do you want to ask the question again?
Yeah. How damaging would it be to lose Pulysic, basically?
Oh, I mean, it would kill me, and it's unacceptable that this is even an idea. Renew him. I would be surprised if the Sharks weren't circling because of how good he has been, but he's also like, I doubt he actually does go to Liverpool or Arsenal, and then here is like Spurs, and it's like no, there's no way he wants that for his career. He's chill here. He's getting the goals. He's doing all that stuff. This is a competitive team now. Like, there's no way he wants to be at Spurs.
I just can't visualise him at any of the top Premier League clubs. City don't need him. They've got an abundance of these kind of inside forward type players. Liverpool, I think, it's well documented that there's been times when he's wanted to go to Liverpool. I think when
And I think they wanted him as well.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it from a Liverpool standpoint. You cannot replace Salah with Pulysic. In my eyes, anyway. I could be wrong there. You might argue in terms of end product and things like that they may be similar, but I just don't think it's a high profile enough name for them, given they're dropping 100 plus on forwards. Man United. Don't know. That's the one. That's the one where I think actually that could be a good fit. But hopefully Pulisic's got good advisors and he knows not to potentially jeopardise the prime years of his career by going to a club that has been unstable for the past. And then Spurs, same sort of argument. I keep joking in our chat about him joining Aston Villa. Now, then they don't have the PSR wiggle room to be able to pull it off. But if you're sort of looking at a team that he would go there and kind of be the star and could still probably play Champions League football. And, I don't know. I'd be more worried about a Bayern, but I don't think he starts at Bayern. So there's no fit is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't seem to be a...
I think in terms of just a pure footballing thing, I do think he improves Arsenal. I do think he improves Liverpool because he could play on the left. I do think he improves United. And it's more he definitely improves Arsenal. Tomorrow he would start for Arsenal, but he's not glamorous enough for them to pay 80 million or whatever the hell we would ask for. But that's the only thing that kind of stops him, honestly, is the fact that he's no longer a brand name. I don't know how that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious answer to all of this is that we the thing that concerns me a little bit from the media is this idea that we're going to sort out renewals that are way less important in the scheme of things prior to tackling this. Surely the Maignan case has proven to us that if you go a bit ahead of time and you just go in and you say, no, we're serious about getting this done here and now. Obviously, Maignan dragged into the final year, but for it to have been resolved by basically the new year was incredible. I didn't see that happening. They got it done pretty quick when it came to it. You got to then go to Pulysic and say, let's get a meeting set up for next week. You go in and you probably offer the same deal, 7 million net, including bonuses, and say, we want you here for the next few years. We're going to, touch wood, be back in the Champions League next season, which is another big showcase for you. You don't want to be changing clubs in a home World Cup year, do you, Christian? You love it here. All these things. He's learned Italian and everything. I don't think he's the kind who's ever going to agitate for a move. I really don't. What worries me is what we've seen prior with the Tonali and the Reinders thing is that every single player in that squad has a price. No two ways about it. And they might be tempted to cash in if someone's silly enough to throw 70, 80 million at it. Perhaps the one thing working in his favour is that he's American, our ownership's American, and they want to keep that kind of flagship guy there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that my solution to it all is shut the noise up by going in and offering him the money that he deserves. That's
100%.
That's how you do it. And maybe now is a good time to do it while he's having a little bit of a, strike while the iron is not as hot. Of course, now he'll score a match-winning brace tomorrow night against Como, but I want him to stay. So,
yeah, he's a guy we can't replace. The profile of him and the things that he offers the team, he's not a guy we can replace. In a different way to a Leao, but both of them do different things that we have. With the money we would spend, there's no way in hell we could get somebody like that.
Do you know what? It does open up an interesting conversation about what are we pitching to these players. So we obviously got Maignan to do a U-turn. Moretto keeps saying that we're talking to Leao about an extension because his deal's 2028. We're going to have to speak to Pulysic. Are we going in and saying, for example, to Pulysic, it's an individual pitch and we're like, right, this is our vision. We're back in the Champions League. We're going to spend quite a lot of money in the summer, but of course you're going to remain a starter, but we're going to give you a really good number 9 and you're going to go back to playing as a winger with Leao on the other side and this striker up front. There might be quite an interesting project put forward in that sense, but I don't know. Just get it done, man. It is a bit silly that it is dragged on to this point. And especially given that there were reports saying that we actually had a verbal agreement with him and then it just didn't, nothing ever happened. It's a strange one. A real strange one.
What the hell are they doing, man? It's the same thing with Mike. It's like, oh, they agreed a deal, but then they just got kind of like backed out. Like, just sign the contract. Like, these are no-brainers. These aren't like 50-50 decisions. Like, you want
there
to
was, I think with the Pulysic one, they were saying that it was him who put the brakes on it because obviously he knew that we probably weren't gonna. Yeah, and I kind of understand that. Like, prove to me that you're serious, But you give us that other season, and he's had some injuries this time, but he's still been important when he has played. And we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But I would like us to have something agreed there before the end of the season, because otherwise you get there with a year left on his deal, and maybe his head's turned a little bit more. We'll wrap it up there. It's been a marathon again. Thank you, everyone, for listening all the way. Reminder, check out the Substack. We're back later in the week with a bonus pod. Back early next week with a recap of the 2 games we've previewed this week. Bideh, cheers for joining.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
We'll tag your channel in the description, as always. And have a fantastic week, everyone.